Hello, welcome to Monday Night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. My name is Daniel Caw. Delighted as ever to be joined by the one and only Keith Jackson. Keith.
Evening, Daniel.
Happy Monday.
Yep, and by the way, we're joined by Mystic Ryan, the only man in Scotland that predicted a Celtic double about 6 weeks ago.
I was going to come to that, Ryan. This is your opportunity. The man in this chat, Keith Jackson, he was sneering at you. He was saying, "There's no chance it's going to happen."
I did not.
Neil's going to fall any minute now.
Take that back, because I've said all along the presence of Martin O'Neill alone was justification for thinking that Celtic might do something extraordinary here and put parts to the line. But Ryan said it with a great deal more conviction. And I was still in the big maroon horse.
I'll hold my hands up as well. I remember when you were saying that, Ryan, with 6 or 7 games to go, I thought there was no chance Celtic were going to do it. Absolutely no chance. But they did. They found a way.
I'll take the credit. I'm happy to call Mystic Ryan and whatnot, but what I will say is I've not won a single coupon all season, so...
You didn't have the courage of your convictions.
In general, I'm pretty hopeless when it comes to predictions, although I did predict 3-1 at the weekend as well, so maybe something a bit on that, but there we are. But no, listen, I just had a feeling that, I think it was after the Dundee United game, when Celtic crashed to that kind of, I think it was a 2-0 defeat at Tannadice, the Tannadice sandpit. I just felt that was going to be a turning point for Celtic. You know what, they were pretty atrocious that day. And I just thought back to, I think I mentioned it in the hotline as well, just thought back to that season 2007, 2008, where Celtic were completely written off. They had 7 games to go and they defied the odds by coming back and win the title. Where I just felt that it was kind of shades of that season. And I just felt that Celtic would be able to replicate that. You know, I think you can never write off a Celtic side. You know, you've got serial winners in the team like Cal McGregor, Kieran Tierney, James Forrest, guys that have been over the course and distance before. And I just felt that, you know, with their experience and with their kind of winning mentality, I just felt that with so many people writing Celtic off, that would almost just spur them on. And then you've got that man in the picture, Martin O'Neill, who, I mean, there's calls for him for a statue to be built, and you can't argue against that. What he's achieved this season has been absolutely remarkable. And without him, I don't think that Celtic would be champions. I think the title would be sitting in Gorgie right now.
If they're going to build a statue, they should just build it with him sitting in a DeLorean, just to put the tin lid in this season. I mean, it's been incredible. And you're right, Ryan, that it's the determination, the will to win. And I think they looked exhausted by the end of Hearts were exhausted by the end of that match at the weekend, but you could tell emotionally Cal McGregor looked absolutely burst. He looked drained by the whole, and I wonder, and I think Kieran Tierney sort of hinted towards it, everything that Cal McGregor had been doing behind the scenes to try and keep this thing on the tracks. It was a gargantuan effort from him, colossal from Martin O'Neill, and Celtic got there in the end. But, you know, the last couple of days have been interesting.
Sorry, just to add in, what I would say this, and I don't think this has really been discussed, but I think it's only fair to point it out, is that, you know, the Celtic board, quite rightly, have been let's say, blasted this season for, you know, the way they handled the summer transfer window was a shambles. The nature of Brendan Rodgers' exit, you get obviously humiliation in the Champions League, losing to Kilray, Almaty, you could go on and on and on. But what you have to do is give credit to Brian Wilson. I think, you know, I generally believe that without his intervention, I don't think Celtic would have been crowned champions. You know, I think he was the driving force behind kind of brokering this peace deal, if you like, with the Green Brigade and getting them back in the stadium after they were locked out for 4 or 5 months. Was it, Daniel? I think it was around about that.
Yeah,
that time frame. And no matter what you think of them, his ultras and whatever, you know, I think they've totally transformed the mood around Celtic Park. You know, the atmosphere in the final few games against Falkirk, Rangers and Hearts. I mean, it was like a Champions League night. You know, the stadium was on their feet. They're roaring at every corner, every throw-in, every foul. I know for a fact the players fed off that. You know, they've said as much. Martin O'Neill said as much. I just don't think you can underestimate, you know, how big a role that sense of unity is played in rejuvenating this Celtic side for the final push. So I
Is
think
that a concern though, Ryan, for next season? Because this has only been parked; it's not been resolved.
Right.
And I think it's going to have to be a quite impressive transfer window from the board in order for it to remain parked when next season begins.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be wide-scale changes. Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be wide-scale changes on and off the park. That definitely is going to happen. I'm surprised, in all honesty, that there are perhaps some incoming boardroom changes haven't really been announced yet. I do expect a kind of fresh blood to come in there. Obviously, you've got the managerial situation. You're probably looking at a turnaround of at least 20 players going out the door and obviously in. So it's going to be a seismic change. It's going to be a seismic overhaul, probably a generational overhaul. But I think I think that will probably be discussed in the coming weeks and months. I think for just now, as I said, the Celtic board has been panned this season, and as I say, rightly so at times. But for Brian Wilson, as interim chairman, he's come in. I think he's played a huge role in getting Celtic over the line.
We've got tons of comments coming in already, and if you want to get involved in the chat, please do so. Chris is one. Keith, he says Martin O'Neill told Jim White a new one today in TalkSport. He was in TalkSport today. He did say that if he was offered the job now, he says, I probably don't think I've got the energy. It was an interesting chat he had in TalkSport.
Yeah, well, he keeps fudging the issue of whether or not. If you ask me today, I don't know if I've got the energy, but maybe ask me tomorrow. Yeah, it was an interesting conversation. I wonder if Martin might regret it a little bit. Listen, I can totally understand how anybody would lose their ag speaking to Jim White.
Good point. Very good point.
But yeah, I mean, what he said about the pitch invasion was totally contradicted the club statement. The club have condemned it, said it's not acceptable, and Martin O'Neill was basically saying, what's the problem here? Why shouldn't they run on the pitch? That's an unusual kind of mistake, a misstep from Martin. I don't think it looked particularly great. I don't think he was reading the room. As I said, I can understand why he probably couldn't be bothered talking about it, or certainly didn't want to be nailed to a wall on it. So maybe he's got his back up. But I wonder if he might regret saying or handling that in the manner in which he did, because it's not appropriate. And really, as we were saying on here yesterday, there needs to be a big grown-up discussion about how we stop this from becoming, commonplace in the game, because it is becoming a trend. And I'm afraid, the whataboutery response about, well, tell other clubs to do that. Listen, we should be bigger and better than that. We have to be, because we need to find a solution to this. We cannot allow our game to be tarnished like this, and it's becoming more and more regular. And there needs to be proper, grown-up, adult conversations about the best way of rectifying it, nipping it in the bud.
There's one of the comments here, if I can find it. Jungle Boy says it's time Celtic, Rangers and Hearts, possibly a few others, sat down and had some peace talks. These are the clubs that have cut the allocations, possibly to cool the temperature. That seems like a really good idea to me. Maybe this summer, go out for dinner one night, the figureheads of each club.
Well, why not? Why not? Listen, it's only been in the more recent years when there's been various sort of carnations of the Rangers board. Some had no wish to have any sort of relationship or conversations with Celtic. I don't believe that's the case. I think that the Andrew Kavanagh and his people are proper people. I absolutely would imagine that they'd be open to having conversations. I think there has to be conversations, whether it's between the clubs, whether it's led by the police and the footballing authorities. We need to have something. And I know that today there's been talk about going to the House on the Hill in Holyrood and asking for it to become a criminal offence to invade a football pitch. I'm not sure how keen John Swinney sounded on it. Sounded like a convoluted answer. But yeah, these are the conversations we need to have. We need to find a suitable deterrent if such a thing exists, because it does now seem we seem to be living in a sort of period of time where people just do what people want to do, and they do stick two fingers up at the authorities. They don't want to be told, but there has to be some sort of plan, some sort of punishment, some sort of rule invoked that will act as a proper deterrent. Because we just can't go on like this. As I said yesterday, we just look backwards as a country. And this was at a time when the whole world was watching because of the drama that our game was serving up. It shouldn't have ended like that.
And Keith, as I just said there, maybe we should have some peace talks. Immediately, several comments coming in saying, can he do that? Nobody having peace talks. Jazz, they hate Celtic too much. Haining says Celtic can bring VAR to dinner as it's +1. This is the guys. We need to grow up a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? Like it's football at the end of the day. I mean, sit down, have a chat. But,
yeah. There's a lot. There's and the missing minute hasn't gone away, Dan. At the end of that game, Martin in his talk show. What was it?
TalkSport.
TalkSport. And his TalkSport thing referred to it being, it was only 8 seconds. But this is the same Martin O'Neill that sat in a press conference moments after the end of the game and said he was told it was over a minute. I think his words were in the press conference. So none of it looks great. And I don't know what, something strange happened yesterday. When we were on air, I said to you that I believed Hearts were going to issue a statement about the missing minute. Yesterday afternoon, and I believe that there were journalists who had been told by the PR department at Hearts that something was coming down the pipe, and it never materialised. And I think it was when we were on air yesterday, Dan, there was a change of heart, a change of plan. That's a little bit curious as well. I don't know. Maybe everybody just wants it to go away now.
Is it perhaps maybe down to the SPFL statement, Keith?
I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought so, because the bottom line is the SPFL statement said that the game hadn't been abandoned. I know for a fact that Neil Doncaster personally went to see Don Robertson because he had to before the trophy presentation, because he had to establish that this wasn't an abandonment. It was actually, the game had come to a conclusion. The game, obviously, according to Don Beaton, and I noticed Martin's in his quote said the referee claimed that he blew the whistle, which adds another layer of to the whole thing. But that is the official party line is, yes, the game was ended and it wasn't abandoned, but neither of the managers were informed of that, and that's where the whole thing just feels a little bit confusing.
Well, look, in the comments, John says it was 30 seconds. Keith, Celtic were 3-1 up at the time. Most of the added on time came from Hearts players blatantly wasting Biringame. A couple of people saying that as well. But Ryan, I want to get your take before we swap you out for the one and only Des Roach. Scotland the Brave says, every man and their dogs against Celtic winning the league. Stevie says, this is the sweetest title I've seen at Celtic in 30 years. And our colleague, Michael Gannon, on the Record Celtic podcast today, said something similar. He says that of the 14 of the last 15 titles that Celtic have won, he says that he thinks for the fans, this will be the most memorable and the sweetest. And I know, Ryan, you don't speak for the whole Celtic sport or anything like that, but do you go along with that?
If that's a general opinion, that's a general opinion. I mean, I know viewers probably won't believe this, but I'm in my 30s, and having watched Scottish football, my early memories are probably around about 1999, 2000 onwards. I can't ever recall, apart from the year that Rangers won the treble and winning the title in goal difference, Mikel Arteta's penalty. Apart from that, I can't recall a title finale like it. For Celtic, I think they up until Saturday, they were the last minute kings. They won 19 points by scoring from the 80th minute onwards throughout the entire season. I think they scored 10 goals from the 80th minute onwards across the season. And it was just pretty fitting that in the 87th minute, Diaz Maeda pops up with a goal, which, by the way, was, if it wasn't for VAR, which has been getting panned, it wouldn't have counted because the linesman's flag was raised. I don't know how that was because it was nowhere near offside. But Maeda slotting that home in the 87th minute, it was almost kind of just written in the stars for Celtic. And then obviously with Callum Osman slotting home with the final kick of the ball. It was just that was the only way that Celtic was going to end for Celtic. It was always going to be last minute drama, and it produced. But on the pitch invasion, look, it's really unfortunate. They absolutely soured the end to what has been a season for the ages. Like Keith says, the eyes of the world were watching. I've never seen so much media attention across the world, but even especially in England. Watching our game and look, pitch invasions aren't uncommon. When Man City win the league title, I'm pretty sure almost every year is a pitch invasion, but that doesn't make it right. Like, see if you're a full-grown adult, why you want to run on the pitch? It's going to disrupt the occasion as well, and potentially ruin the occasion for players. You look at what happened not to go back to it, but I mean, look at what happened in the Scottish Cup final between Hibs and Rangers. That robbed Hibs of a moment of doing a lap of honour, going round the stadium at Hampden and properly celebrating in front of their fans. They were lucky enough to get to raise the trophy in the podium, but that's just an example of how pitch invasions can ruin spectacles. And obviously, we've seen what happened at Ibrox a few months ago as well, and that was some disgraceful scenes there as well. And it's just becoming more and more common. And you need, like I've said there, we're full-grown adults. Scottish football needs to kind of grow up, throwing missiles onto the field of play and from different stands as well. I don't know what's happening. I feel as if the fan behaviour is getting worse and worse every season. And there's obviously this argument of strict liability, but I was looking in, I think it was in 2019, all 42 senior clubs in Scotland were asked to vote on potentially introducing strict liability, and only 3 voted in favour. So that's simply not going to happen. So it's going to happen, right? Yeah, so it's going to take a government intervention. I know that the SPFL are in talks with the government to discuss how they can, make steps towards, prosecuting fans who run on the field. And I know that, in England and Wales, I think entering the field of play is already a criminal offence. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be introduced into Scottish football or in Scotland in general in the coming weeks and months. I think rather than slapping the clubs with fines, I don't think that punishment is going to deter people from running on the pitch. I think it has to be, you have to hit the individual with punishments, and I think that's the only way it's going to happen. And look, just in general terms as well, I heard Rod Stewart on TalkSport this morning as well, and he was suggesting that one of the ways to stop this is by erecting fences around the entire stadium. And look, that's not great. Back in the 80s and 90s and 70s, 80s and 90s, I'm pretty sure there was fencing all around the stadium to stop fans kind of storming onto the pitch. But it's just not. It doesn't make for a great spectacle. And for 99% of fans that go to games, they're not there to cause trouble. They're there to enjoy the atmosphere. You look at the 59,500 Celtic fans at the game in Saturday. Were jeering the dafties that were running on the pitch. So the majority of people are there just to watch the football and enjoy the spectacle. It's always just the minority that ruins it for most. So. But yeah, I just wanted to add my tuppence worth there on the pitch invasions. But I think something has to be done, and I think it's going to take a government intervention to get the ball rolling.
Well, look, Ryan, I know you've still got some record sport duties to be getting on with tonight, so we can let you get off. But thanks as always for coming on Hotline Live.
Great, enjoyed it, guys. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Ryan.
All the best. Ryan McDonald there, and like clockwork, Keith, I can introduce a substitution, the one and only Des Roach. Des, good to see you.
Good to see you, and camera's working, mic's working.
Can't believe it.
Incredible. It just had to happen after the end of the season, didn't it?
The season,
that's my pre-season training. Make sure your camera and your mic work. for next year.
Keith, what should we talk to Des about? Any ideas?
Yeah, I wonder. Right. There's actually, you sent me a message, I think after the game at the weekend, and you're absolutely spot on. Don Robertson had a brilliant 90 minutes, didn't he?
Yeah, thought he had a really, really good game. Everything that was going through the game, I was looking at my notes there. There was nothing really that he'd done that I didn't agree with. He showed a really composed frame of mind, because let's be honest, after the mayhem that had ensued midweek and the hysteria that went around it, that was probably the most high-pressured game that you've had in Scottish football for a number of years. And the scrutiny and the eyes of the world were on him. And I thought Don had a great game. Thought he had a really, really good game. And I know what we're going to come to.
Yeah. The missing minute, Des. Now, I'm not, by the way, and I said this last night, I don't think you can blame Don Robertson for, you can't. You just can't blame Don Robertson for any of this. He can only deal with the circumstances as they arise. And he had to. There's no rule book or textbook that says this is what you do in the case of a security event like this. So he could only do what he could do, or was it? Did he handle it right, Des? Is there a protocol there that should have come into play? The final whistle thing. Give me how should that have been handled in a perfect world? And I totally understand this is pretty far from a perfect world.
Right. So when you look at a normal game, the referee's job is to protect the safety of the 22 players on that field of play. So at that moment in time, when the idiots that were coming onto the pitch, whatever you want to call them, morons, when these people have come onto the pitch, Don's duty is to protect the 22 players that are on that pitch and move them out. I don't know if a whistle was blown or a whistle wasn't. I don't, and I'm not going to try and second guess this. I've not spoken to anyone, but his duty of care is to the people on the pitch and get them off, protect them. We've seen that, because you don't know what are these guys doing. I mean, they can go on and attack somebody, they could hit somebody, they could, God forbid, what could go on. So Don acted entirely correctly, getting the guys off, look after their safety, ensure that all these guys are getting back up the road the way they should be. Did he blow a whistle? Did he not? I don't know. Did he signal the end of the game by calling it off with his hands or whatever? Because remember, you don't always have to whistle to make a decision. But I thought Don handled the game extremely well, and I think he handled that situation extremely well as well.
Should they have gone back out, in your view?
No.
Just out of safety, there, she wasn't safe.
Absolutely. What are you going to achieve? What are you going to achieve? Are those crowd going to run back on again 30 seconds later when they blow the final whistle and say, right, that's you won the league, or we hear it? I think you
go through the same situation all over again.
Absolutely. I think, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion, people may disagree, and they're certainly entitled to disagree. I think Don handled that situation, because you're not trained for that. That's not something you do. He's thought on his feet and he's acted on his feet. I think Don done the right thing.
Do you think, Des, that the police would have maybe made that decision for him in those circumstances?
Quite.
And that's why, because in the tunnel, my information is that there were players. There was a senior Celtic player who was actually telling his teammates, guys, we need to go back out there and finish this match. The managers weren't informed that the game was over. I'm wondering if it's been taken out of Don's hands at that point. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely, very much so, because the police have control of where you take penalty kicks at the end of a game, what side you're going to go and take them at. So I would like to think that the police would have made that decision and said, no, that's not safe to go and do. As I just said to you, are you going to want to repeat the scenes you've just seen a couple of moments earlier? But it's not. No, I would like to think that the police had the call on that, but also think that Don showed a lot of common sense to ensure that the situation was managed correctly, and as you say, the player safety is the most important.
Some of the questions that were coming in, Des, I guess you've answered this one. Stephen asked Des if he would have restarted the match and played the final 8 seconds. A lot of people, though, Rab's one of them, saying, can you ask Des how on earth the linesman got the Maida offside goal so badly wrong? John also says, can you explain the decision of the fourth official to give Maida's goal as offside? What did he see as Osman was yards onside? Get a wee image of it there for anyone that can't remember it. It was a bad call. I mean, I don't really know what what they're expecting you to say, Des. I mean, he got it wrong. And for it, Maida's offside in that image, but he wasn't receiving the ball. It was Osmond.
Yeah, listen, David Room. We were actually talking about it today. The far side assistant referee David Room he's done numerous Old Firm games, done National Cup finals, etc. Nobody knows his name, and the reason they don't know his name is because he doesn't make errors. Right? He's made an error. Let's be honest. I can only assume he's given offside because I can only think that he's thought the ball was going to be played to Maeda and it didn't. It got slipped inside to Osmond. Osmond is clearly onside. Aye. That's fine. But as much as we've been critical of VAR, none more so than myself, that's what VAR's there for. They got it right. They pulled it out.
That's exactly what I've been saying. When it's used correctly, it's a brilliant tool. It helps us get rid of mistakes or correct mistakes as they happen. And that's a key, absolutely key moment. And VAR, the actual protocol, everything about the way it worked in that instant is exactly why it's not something we just need to throw in the bin. We need to improve how we use it. But there's a perfect example of VAR working as it should do.
And do you know how they actually sold the decision that it was so good? Don didn't even go over to the screen. Don made it. They told him he's clearly onside. This is what it's done. And as we've always said, it's my big bugbear. VAR, the technology works is how you're educated and trained and instructed to operate it.
I mean, some of the comments there saying without VAR, that goal would have been chopped off and Celtic wouldn't have won the title. But then I guess you need to rerun the whole season without VAR. You can't really say it for that one game. But, aye, there you go.
Yeah, and can you imagine the conversation we'd be having now?
Really?
We'd need to just have Des on 24/7. We'll have a Des channel.
Like the
that holiday.
Keith, was there anything else you wanted to pick Des's brain about before we let him go?
No, I think we've exhausted Des's brain quite enough for one season. Mind you, we've still got a Scottish Cup final to go, Des.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. They've not announced the referee yet for it, but I've got a feeling that Stephen McLean will get it.
Interesting. What makes you say that? Is he just sort of do it, or?
Well, Stephen's done a couple of them, but if you look at the way the games have went the last couple of weeks, you had Don doing the game yesterday for Celtic. You had John Beaton midweek doing the game. Nick was involved a couple of weeks ago, so I think the way the SFA tend to keep guys away from teams prior to selecting, so I think it's really sort of between Nick or Stephen, and I would anticipate Stephen getting it.
What was Stephen's latest one? He was involved in something very recently, wasn't he? I know they all have been, but
his was the penalty, Hearts Motherwell penalty. John Beaton got him across and he stuck to his guns.
So it was.
Right, so he's been rewarded for that with a cup final. Good.
Well, put it this way, they're not going to be phoning me, are they?
Wow. Okay. That's a good bombshell to drop on us right at the end, Des.
That's not definitely. That's just your opinion, Des.
That's just it's not official.
Des is good at reading the tea leaves where his appointments are concerned. I bet he's right.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't go against him. Des, thank you so much as always for joining us. Massively appreciate it. Well, I'm sure I'll be pestering you again very soon.
I'm sure he will be.
Yeah,
probably Saturday lunchtime, I'd imagine.
No problem, guys.
Cheers, Des. All the best. Des Roach, Keith, like when we get Des on. I thought it was interesting what you said, but
it is interesting. It's just such a mess. I think there's a real problem here with the communication around this as well, and it's making, look, Martin O'Neill's put in that situation today. Unusually for Martin, I don't think he spoke terribly well. The SPFL have put out a statement that said some bits, but then I think, and you're left in this vacuum just now. Hearts were going to put out a statement, think better of putting out that statement. We don't know why, what brought that around. I just think that it would be nice to achieve, and I don't know if it's going to be possible, but some sort of clarity around the missing minute and the events which sort of preempted it. Whether or not we're going to get it, I don't know, but it kind of does feel unsatisfactory, doesn't it? And I totally get what Des is saying there. Right. In that situation, Hearts go back out, as I said last night, emotionally, physically, totally spent. They're not going to score 2 goals. It would take something beyond freakish for that to happen. So we know what the likelihood is, but it's not really the point.
That's not the point now.
But then I totally get it from a position of trying to protect players and not have to go through the exact same thing all over again just 60 seconds later. Then yeah, but maybe why is somebody not just coming out and explaining it? Why, if it was the police that called it, come out and say that.
No,
but I don't know if is there a concern that constitutes abandonment, and then that causes all sorts of ramifications. I don't know, but it's an unsatisfactory sort of way to bring the curtain down on just the best league campaign that I can remember.
Well,
ever.
I mean, Chick in the comments is telling us, get over it, man. The World Cup's coming up.
Yeah.
And we've got the Scotland squad is getting.
Anyway, I did write that. I think that might there could be strategy in that, Chick. I honestly think if you're the SPFL just now, just let this play out, let it go away, make it go away, and then soon everybody's eyes are going to be 1, the Scottish Cup final, and 2, all roads lead to Miami and Boston. Yep.
The squad's tomorrow. I know we'll talk about that obviously more in tomorrow's show.
That's right.
Any shocks? I mean, I saw Kieran Bowie the other night scoring in the San Siro. Obviously, I don't watch him all the time, but I thought he looked really good in that game. He'd be one that I'd be trying to get on the plane. Well,
the Tommy Conway's injury has opened up a space there, and yes, I think it'd be difficult not. And Kieran Bowie's been in and around the squad. I wouldn't rule that one out. I think there might be a couple of wild cards in here. I've just no idea what. Steve Clarke keeps his cards close to his chest. Difficult man to read. Difficult man to second guess. I think you and I could sit here just now and rattle off 24 names that was fairly certain will be in this squad. But there is room for manoeuvre here. There is room. I wonder. Finlay Curtis.
Yep.
Again, ended the season so strongly at Kilmarnock. Had got his foot in the door. Did Steve Clarke like what he saw from Finlay Curtis when he was part of the camp the last time? Again, a winger who could be a potential game changer because he's got goals. He's got a finishing touch to his work. So does he get a seat in the plane? I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, Dan. I believe you're going down there as well.
To Hampden?
Yeah.
I won't actually be there, but I'll be conducting through the miracles of technology, a Facebook Live with our very good friend Scott McDermott.
All right, okay. So you're doing it from the kitchen.
Sorry, Keith, you're breaking up. The other one.
I would be in the studio tonight, but our studio's getting done up, isn't it?
We're getting a new revamped, slightly smaller studio. But there you go.
It doesn't matter if it's slightly smaller. I'm the only one that's ever in
it. It's a very good point, would you start Shankland for Scotland? Sorry, that's the last thing. Some people in the comments saying he should now start. He should be the starting striker. I'm torn on that.
Well, do you know what? I'm not really torn. I don't know if it will happen, but I think if it was me, I think Shankland starts the first game against Haiti.
Wow.
Because I want to think that we are going to create chances in that game. This is going to be, 3 different games at the World Cup. we're not going to see a lot of the ball, presumably, in a couple of them. But I think we should have chances. We should have possession. We've got an opportunity to start on the front foot. If we can get 3 points in that opening game, I think we need to throw a 6-6 not to qualify through the group stages.
Aye.
I'm sure we are Scottish, so we'll probably find that way. But yeah, I think our optimum chance of getting off to a flyer involves playing Lon Shanklin starting them. Now, I'm not saying it could very much be horses for courses, because they will be different types of games. I'm not saying that Lon Shanklin, if he gets the shirt, keeps the shirt for the next two. But then again, we've seen it at World Cups. Sometimes strikers just go there and they just get up and running. They find their vibe. They score goals, and they look like scoring every time. So we used to see Lon Shanklin starts that game, gets himself a couple of goals. We get 3 points. Very difficult to then leave him out. But Steve Clarke does have options, and as I said, I think it will be a case of horses for courses in these games. But in terms of who's our best natural finisher, I think it's in terms of, well, certainly Scott McTominay's not bad, is he? But in terms of centre forward, it's Lon Shanklin. And Steve Clarke has used 2 strikers from time to time, hasn't he? I wonder if that might be a game for 2 strikers up front.
I know I'm stating the obvious, but we need to beat Haiti. We just need to beat Haiti. Morocco and Brazil, the African champions and Brazil.
Yeah.
It's going to be tricky.
It's going to be 3 very different games of football, but we could really do with getting 3 points banked in game 1. And do you know what? I've got a really good feeling that we'll do exactly that.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing the squad tomorrow, because then it really starts to feel real, doesn't it? When you're actually looking at the names of the boys that are getting on that plane.
Aye, absolutely. Before we sign off, Scotland the Brave says, Keith, who paid for your stirring fireplace? The dealer record's paying you too much. And I bring that up because someone said to me in Boots yesterday, Keith, they come up to me and said, I really like your show. And I went, oh, thanks very much. And then he went, the guy with the fireplace is good enough.
Well,
said I'll pass that on.
This is why I prefer to do it from the studio, Dan. People can be very past remarkable. But I'll take that.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
He meant it well. If I had his name, I'd share it, but there you go. I think that brings to the end of Monday Night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Thank you so much to Record Sports Ryan McDonald, and of course to our resident ref Des Roach, and to yourself, Keith. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. See you tomorrow.
We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. We hope you can join us then. Thanks for watching. Cheers.